You know, it's an odd life, and it takes a lot of the ability to put up with uncertainty. And many, many people would rather put up with lethargy and would rather put up with failure rather than put up with uncertainty. It drives some people nuts. What do I do today? How do I start? How do I blah, blah, blah? And a lot of you guys are asking that question, how do I start? The answer is figure it out. Figure it out. You know, don't forget that you're human beings, right? When you got something that you really, really want to do, anyone, you'll figure it out. Well, I like writing, you know, and it's been working out pretty well so far, Ken O'Hara. I like writing. I do it for money. And if you got trouble being motivated, do something else. You don't got to be a writer. Maybe you're not cut out to be a writer. Find out. You're entitled to find out. People, there are all these novels written used to be written for 100 years of a young person who said, I'm going to go to Paris to paint, and I'm just going to give it 2 years. And if at the end of those 2 years, well, you're already done, right? Like somebody who's got something to fall back on will fall back on it. Of course they will. You know, it's like saying about young kids living together. They say they're living together, they're practicing being married. Well, they aren't. They're practicing being not married, right? Because you're living with somebody and someone else, you know, oh, she burned the toast. I thought she was the love of my life, but she burned the toast. Obviously, she's not the one. Thank you, honey. And so we get involved in serial monogamies, which is a practice for not being married. Being married is, okay, we took an oath, we're going to work it out. You know, so usually one person, usually one person is always the wife, saying, don't you dare walk out that door. You know, we're going to stay right here until we work it out. It's just like with writing, right? If you took that oath, say, I'm a writer, I'm going to work it out. You stay in that chair till you work it out. I did a few things with the great Jack Lemmon. And we were talking one day about growing up. He went to Harvard, he grew up in Cambridge, and his dad was a baker. And he said, you know, my dad always said, when I get up in the morning and there's no romance in a loaf of bread, I'm going to quit. I thought that was kind of cute. But I always feel that about, I've been working on stages I was a kid actor in Chicago. I've been doing this for over 60 years. And I never come onto a sound stage or the backstage. I'm sure you guys all feel the same, without a feeling of being privileged and without a feeling of being grateful to be able to come in through the stage door, be able to come in through the set door. And I think that most people nearly all, but certainly most people in our racket feel the same. It's a wonderful place, and we're given a great gift and a great responsibility, which is to tell stories as honestly as we can, and experience things in the process that are beautiful. I've self-taught as a writer all the time. You know, they say, woe be to you when all men praise you. You know, if you're praising yourself all the time, you're definitely doing something wrong. So as I said earlier, I go back and forth, and this is the greatest thing anybody ever wrote. And why was I born? I'm a complete fraud. You go back and forth, and you work it out. Because if you're making it up off the top of your head, it's not going to cost you anything. Just like a performance you work up in the mirror, that's not going to cost you anything. You know, but it's very grand, but it ain't art. Art is going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something you weren't prepared to pay, which is the definition of what cost is. You know, obviously there's something of the destructive nature in the artist, right? Duh. You got to not care if school keeps an art. Because you grow up and people says, you know, nobody, if you're a smart aleck, a wise ass like I was, and in addition to being a nerd to will, I was a 3-letter man, people say, you know, nobody likes a smart aleck. They always, I don't know, many of you guys, women out there probably heard that. It's not true. It's just not true. Also, I didn't care if I knew it was not true because that was my place in the roster, right? Was being the no good smart aleck, and people seemed to laugh at my jokes. So whore that I was, I kept telling them. you want to write for a living, what's stopping you? Nothing. You, because think about it, if you want to say, I want to write for a living, but I want to make a lot of money at it, well, you're not entering that race. It may happen or it may not happen, but you're entering a different race. And this is a very concept goes back to Stoical philosophy, where someone says, I work so hard, I want to be famous. And Epictetus, I believe, says, you did not enter that race. That's a different race. If you want to enter the race to be a writer and to learn to write, do that. Whether you're going to be famous or not famous or make money or not make money at it, that's a different race. So there was a terrible idea that came around in the turbulent 1960s that you can have it all. Right? I mean, it started with women. Women can have it all. Then everybody can have. Why can't everybody have it all? Well, nobody can have it all, but you might be able to have one thing. If it's, like they say, that which you desire more than anything else in the world, perhaps that you may have. You should avoid inaction. I remember I was a kid in New York. I was in New York, and I can't even remember what I was doing, sleep on my friend Johnny Katz's couch and doing something. I don't remember what I was doing for money. And one year I made like $4,000, and I spent $1,500 of it on Xeroxing. So you can't afford inaction. Can't afford waiting for the phone to ring. You got to be writing all the time, acting all the time. So I tell my kids in the business, you got to do two things every day. You got to do one thing for your art every day, and you got to do one thing for your business every day. Just one thing, that's all. Write a letter, make a phone call, make a connection for your business, get new cards printed up. Think, it's your business. Nobody's going to help you but you. And do one thing for your art every day. Write a scene. If you're the actress, take a yoga class, take a singing class, read a play. Kind of liken it to woodworking. You can make a model of a ship. You can make a real ship. You can make a cabinet. If you like woodworking, you like working with wood. You like the challenge of the different forms. I like the challenge of the different forms. Also, it keeps me busy, sometimes. And I kind of feel like I got a push cart. I have had, through my life, zero capacity to be bored. I can't stand it. It drives me insane. As a result, I ended up as a ne'er-do-well in show business. I also missed out on a lot of things where a little bit of discipline would have took me a long way. But we all get to lead his or her own life, each of us, and we're dealt a hand, and as they say, a good life is not in getting a good hand, but in playing a bad hand well.